Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Horror Heaven77. And yeah, the movie that I want to review today is from 2006, written, produced, and directed by Guillermo del Toro. And the movie I'm talking about, and I'm actually surprised this has never been reviewed on this channel, but I'm reviewing Pan's Labyrinth. Now, this movie here, I will say that, honestly, I think this movie's really good. There's a lot to it, and I personally feel like this is a movie that really benefits from multiple watchings. It's one of those movies that feels like you kind of pick up a little bit more every time you watch it. Even though, that being said, the movie is, not hard. It's not a hard story to follow. But, I feel even though the movie definitely has horror elements to it, in terms of horror, I would definitely say it's much more of a human horror story. Even though, we all know there are creatures, you got the fawn Pan here that's you know you know the amazing Doug Jones and another creature costume. And but anyway, yeah, but this movie definitely has horror elements to it. There's definitely monsters and creatures and everything in it. But kind of the way I feel about this movie, it feels kind of more like, I guess the best way to describe it personally is I feel like it's more like a war film mixed with a dark fairy tale, if that makes any sense. But the story starts in 1944 in Spain. It's after the Civil War, but you have the Captain Vidal, and he's kind of the ruler, and he's kind of a fascist, and trying to make everybody do what he wants to do it and behave the way he wants them to behave, even though there's still basically a group of rebels that are fighting for the fascist regime. And then we're introduced to our two of our main characters. We're introduced to Carmen, who is married to the captain. I keep wanting to say general, but he's not a general. He's a captain. He's married, or she's married to the captain. She's pregnant with his child and her daughter Ophelia. Now Ophelia is just kind of a typical little girl. She loves books. She's very much into fairy tales and things like that, and she does have a bit of a vivid imagination. Now they're going to the captain's house. They're going to live with him. Carmen is pretty much coming to the end of her pregnancy, and the captain is just a horrible person. Captain Vidal, he's an absolutely terrible person. I mean, he's definitely the kind of guy you want to see this dude get taken out. You wait through the whole movie just to see this guy get his comeuppance. He's horrible. He married Carmen, and it's clear like he doesn't even care about her. He has no love for her. He has no affection for her whatsoever. Basically, the whole reason that he married her was just because he wanted a son to carry on his name, and that was it. It's like, and there are moments in the movie when Carmen becomes very, very ill, and the captain, he's sitting there telling the doctor, he's all like, in so many words, saying, I don't care about her, just save the baby. It's like, I want my son. And even at one point, I mean, this guy is kind of delusional as well, because even at one point, the doctor tells him, well, what happens if it's not a boy? And he just kind of shrugs the whole thing off. It's like, no, no, I'm going to have a son. He's that kind of a guy, you know? And so, obviously the captain and Ophelia, they don't get off on the right foot. They don't really like each other. She's expected to call him father, even though he's not her father. She states this over and over again, and that she's she just doesn't like him. She has bad vibes from him, and she just doesn't want to call him father. And so, as they're living with him, Carmen, she becomes much more sick. She's closer to giving birth. It's not looking good for Carmen. And one person who is there to help Ophelia to deal with things that are going on is a woman named Mercedes. Now, Mercedes is played by Maribel Verdu. I hope I pronounced that right. And she gives an astonishing performance in this movie. But I will say, okay, a little side naughty note here. Okay, if you watch this movie and you look at the character Mercedes and the actress Maribel Verdu, if you think like, oh, dude, she's hot, then I'll give you a nice little hint. Go watch the movie. Make sure you watch the unrated version, but watch the movie Y Tu Mama Tambien with her in it, and you're going to see her get really down and dirty in that movie. I promise you that much. But anyway, getting back to this, so um, Mercedes becomes something of a nanny to Ophelia, and when they get there to the captain's home and everything, there's basically kind of like a big maze, and it definitely gives off like a Shining kind of a vibe to it. And Ophelia keeps being drawn to it, and as the story progresses, she's you know at one point she's drawn to it, and she there's like a long spiral staircase that she goes down, and she meets the faun, and the faun basically he starts giving her she has a set of three tasks, and he's basically telling her that she's something of a royal, she's a princess, and her soon to be born brother is a prince. And so these creatures that basically just look like giant grasshoppers, whatever, they turn into fairies, and and her thing is she's supposed to complete these tasks, and with every task that she completes, she ends up, you know, she's getting closer and closer to regaining basically her royal title of princess. But at the same time, her mother is becoming much more, a woman who is, her health was declining badly. She's now becoming healthier. She's getting better and things like that. So she's got to try to complete these tasks. But in the meanwhile, you have the character Mercedes, who, even though she works for the captain, she works as, basically a servant, a maid kind of. She also works as like a nanny for Ophelia. She's kind of doing all these things. She helps cook in the kitchen, just all kinds of things she's doing. But it turns out that her brother Pedro is also one of the resistance fighters, I guess you could call them that. And they're trying to build their army, and they want to overtake, um, Vidal, because they just, he's basically trying to control every aspect of the people's lives. Like, he's rationing out food, and he's, for example, he's rationing out food. He gives everybody like these ration cards, ration books, and everything, and they're only allowed so much food. And people with families, they're not getting enough of what they need to keep their families fed. They're not getting enough medicine, things like this. And we also find out that Mercedes, she's helping her brother, and helping getting them medicine and things like that to help their wounded. And so these things are all kind of happening simultaneously. And honestly, it's amazing how well this is all done. And I don't want to give away the ending, but I will say there are, the first time I watched this, there were definitely some twists and turns I didn't see coming. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with the way the movie ended. Um, I'm not going to tell you what happens or anything like that, but overall, this movie, it's just, I can understand why this movie gets all the praise that it does. I mean, like I said, it feels very much like a dark fairy tale mixed with, a war film. Now, don't get me wrong, it's definitely got some horror moments in it. I think we can all remember the creature, with the eyes and the hands, and things like that. And that part's, there are some, also too, there are some genuine moments of suspense. There is a bit of bloodshed in this movie. It's not over the top gore. It's not Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Peter Jackson, Dead Alive in terms of gore, but it does get gruesome in some parts of the film. There's, there's this. I cannot praise the special effects in this movie enough. There are a couple of moments where the CGI doesn't exactly hold up, but still, when I compare it to a lot of other movies with, CGI effects I've seen that just really don't look good, or you could tell they tried, but it just, didn't work. I mean, even the couple of moments in here where the CGI doesn't really look, 100% effective, it to me, it doesn't take me out of the viewing experience, to be honest with you. The practical effects are astonishing. and the creature suit here that was built for Doug Jones to play, Fawn Pan. Um, it's just amazing, and you could tell there's a little bit of, you could kind of tell there's a little bit of CGI in there to kind of smooth out the movements because you could see that. I mean, clearly he looks like he's in a suit that's on stilts and everything, but at the same time, you don't mind that. But like I said, it is a little bit obvious in a couple of shots where you could tell, especially when you're watching it in 4K like I did. You could definitely tell there are a couple of shots where you could tell that they use CG to try to smooth out the movements, especially in the legs and things like that. But just for a movie that only had a $19 million budget, this movie looks. It's also really refreshing to see a movie where you could tell the money was put on the screen. For a $19 million budget movie, this movie looks just as good, if not better, in as like $100 or $200 million movie. I'm amazed at the set design in this movie, the creature effects, just the fact that they were able to have all of this stuff. They had horses and tanks, and they everything. I mean, it's really amazing to see what they were able to accomplish with, which even in 2006, $19 million pretty much consider a relatively small budget. But overall, I think that's one of the things. This movie is really, really good. I can't recommend it enough. I would say, uh, even though this movie, like I said, I think it's a movie that does kind of you kind of do need to watch it a little bit more than once, because it just feels like the kind of movie that, for me personally, anyway, it feels kind of like the kind of movie like you pick up some new things every time you watch it. But that being said, at the same time, there's a lot of melancholy moments in the movie. So I don't know if this is a movie that I would watch constantly, but I can't. I really have a hard time trying to, except for like I said, a couple of shots where you could tell the CGI wasn't completely up to snuff. Um, I really am having a hard time trying to come up with anything that I could think of that I didn't like about the movie. Um, like I said, I didn't like the character of Captain Vidal. Again, I almost called him General, but Captain Vidal. Like I said, the whole point is like the entire movie, you're just waiting for this guy to get his comeuppance. And there are a couple of moments where, even though Ophelia is a sweet little girl, and she's trying to be a good girl, but at the same time, there are a couple of moments where she does some things that kind of tend to get on your nerves. Like for one thing, there's the fawn gives her a piece of chalk and tells her, to draw a door and everything, which I got to be honest, personally, the first thing I thought of was Beetlejuice. It was like take the chalk, draw a door, and everything else. And so yeah, to me, I don't know if that was honestly like a real throwback to Beetlejuice, but anyway, that's beside the point. But and she leaves her chalk laying around. There are parts in the movie where even though you come to find out, like there was parts in the movie where she completely disobeys the captain, but then you kind of realize like that was her intention. So, but there are some good suspenseful moments in it. There's really good storytelling. There's good character development. Um, yeah, I mean the acting is really top notch. The movie is astonishingly photographed. I've heard some people put down the 4K, and they said it would be much better if you just go with the Criterion. Now I don't have the Criterion of Pan's Labyrinth, but even still, this movie, in my opinion, really does look good. It really benefits from the 4K, in my opinion, and especially with the amazing scene, the set designs and everything else. To me, the one part that really popped was when she goes and she finds the creature. With the fingers in the hand, or the eyes in the hands. It's like coming towards her, and she's trying to get out. To me, that scene in the 4K really looked amazing. So, but yeah, overall, I would definitely say give this a shot. And this is a movie that personally I feel is unique. It has some guts to it. You can understand why it gets the praise it gets. It's not hard to see why it won the Academy Awards that it did. What did it say? Let's see here. Winner of 3 Academy Awards, including Best Cinematography. Okay, I could buy that. The movie does look beautiful the way it's filmed. But yeah, the only thing is though, it's like I would definitely say if you're going into this hoping for like a really hardcore horror film, like if you're looking for a lot of blood and guts and everything all over the place, this movie isn't going to really do it for you. A lot of the horror in this movie is mostly the horror that people do to each other. Is a lot of it is, you know, the how cold and evil like Vidal is to Carmen, to Ophelia, to Mercedes, to pretty much everybody. And this man just seems like he has no moral compass, and he has no problems, hurting people, and just, all he cares about is just having a son to carry on his name. That's all he cares about. And he's just dead set on that. And just, whoever, if anybody he thinks gets in his way, if they gotta suffer, they gotta suffer. So that's where a lot of the horror in the movie comes from. It's not even so much from the creatures or the monsters. It's more, what, the people do to each other is where the horror really comes in. But yeah, I would definitely say, give it a shot, especially if you like dark fairy tales. I mean, I would definitely say, like, I mean, obviously, yeah, this movie's rated R, so it's definitely not for, you know, I wouldn't really recommend this for kids, but, if you like the idea of kind of, fairy, kind of more like Peter Pan for adults, I would definitely say give this a shot. Um, but yeah, I definitely recommend this. So that's about the best I think I can do with it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the movie. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the Body Bags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Friday reviewer. Different guys, everybody's doing great stuff. And yeah, I think that's it. So everybody, have a good night, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.